Okay, let's go through China's one-child policy. Okay, hopefully by the end of this you'll understand the reasons why the policy was introduced and be able to think about the positives and negatives of the policy and its impact upon the population growth of China. For the exam, you're going to need to be able to explain why China needed to introduce one-child policy. You're going to be able to talk about the positives and negatives of the policy and explain the impact of the policy on the economy. Okay, so if we look at China, it's the fourth largest country in the world. Its population is about 1.3 billion. It's the most populated country in the world. And the Chinese government adopted a one-child policy in an effort to try and curb the numbers of people, okay, because they were concerned that their population was growing too fast. Unfortunately, it also makes China one of the fastest aging countries. Okay, this is a propaganda poster. This kind of poster is put around China to encourage people to have the one child. The idea is to make it seem like the ideal situation to have a family with one child. It's encouraging women to only have the one child, to take the family planning seriously, and also to promote girls as well. Okay, the policy itself restricts the number of children of married urban couples to one child, although there are some exceptions. For example, if you live in the countryside, if you're a rural couple, you may be allowed to have more than one. Some ethnic minority groups are allowed to have more than one child. And if you're a parent without any brothers and sisters yourself, you may be allowed to have more than one child. Okay, so 35.9% of China's population is currently subject to the one-child restriction, which means the others aren't. They can have more than one child. The policy doesn't apply if you live in Hong Kong, Macau or Tibet. Okay, here's another propaganda poster, and you can see a happy young couple with a baby, showing it probably to their grandparent. Okay, and again, it's just to show how ideal the society in China is. The Chinese government introduced a policy in 1979 to alleviate social, economic and environmental problems. The policy has prevented more than 250 million births. The policy has been blamed for an increase in forced abortions and female infanticide, that's when you kill baby girls, and has been suggested as a possible cause behind China's gender imbalance. Okay, there are more men than women. 76% of the Chinese population support the policy, and the policy is in force at the provincial level, so in your town or villages. Fines can be imposed upon families if they break the one-child policy. Right, if we look at the population pyramid, China, like many other Asian countries, has a long tradition of son preference. This means that they prefer to have boys rather than girls. The commonly accepted explanation for son preference is that sons in rural families may be thought to be more helpful in farm work. Sons are preferred as they provide the primary financial support for the parents in their retirement, and a son's parents typically are better cared for than his wife's. Chinese traditionally view that daughters on their marriage become primarily part of the groom's family. So this means that if a girl is to get married, they then belong to their husband's family and no longer play a part in their own parents' family. High male to female sex ratios in the current population of China do not occur only in rural areas. The ratio is nearly identical in rural and urban areas. Men outnumber women by 60 million. Okay, here's a population pyramid, and you can see, if you look at the base, we can see that there are fewer babies being born than in previous generations, which does indicate that the policy is working. It has reduced China's population by restricting the number of children allowed to be born. Okay, there are some positives of the policy. Okay, the number of births has fallen, which means that natural increase has slowed. This means that there is less stress on services for young people. There's been an increased savings rate. This means that individual savings rate has increased since the introduction of the one-child policy. The average Chinese household expends fewer resources, both in terms of time and money, on children, which gives many Chinese more money to invest. Second, since young Chinese people can no longer rely on children to care for them in their old age, there is an impetus to save money for the future. There has been economic growth. The original intent of the one-child policy was economic, to reduce the demand of natural resources, maintaining the steady labour force, reducing unemployment caused from surplus labour and reducing the rate of exploitation. So basically, if you have less people, you don't have to worry about feeding so many people, there's more work to go around, so you don't have lots of unemployment. Right, on a negative side, in 2002, China outlawed the use of physical force to make a woman submit to an abortion or sterilisation, but it is not entirely enforced. Women as far along as 8.5 months pregnant were forced to abort by injection of a saline solution. There have also been reports of women in their 9th month of pregnancy or already in labour having their children killed whilst in the birth canal or immediately after birth. The one-child policy includes selective breeding regulations. Both partners have to be rigorously tested before they marry. If one spouse has an unsatisfactory physical or mental condition ranging from anything from dyslexia to schizophrenia, they are banned from marrying. These are the average annual percentage of pregnancies aborted. Okay, the red areas are the areas where there have been most abortions, but these are also the areas that are most densely populated in China. Right, as the one-child policy begins to near its next generation, one adult child is left with having to provide support for his or her 2 parents and 4 grandparents. This is the 4-to-1 dilemma. This leaves the older generation with more of a dependency on retirement funds or charity in order to have support. This means there is a large dependent population. There are lots of old people that need looking after. If personal savings, pensions or state welfare should fail, then the most senior citizens would be left entirely dependent upon their very small family or neighbours for support. Okay, so you need to think about how far you agree with the one-child policy. Has it been effective? Okay, has it met its aims? Has it brought benefits to China? What is the impact in the future going to be? Is the policy sustainable? Okay, should China continue this policy? Is there a better way to control the population and ensure that it is sustainable in the future? Okay.